Hi guys, welcome back to Economics Verified. And in this video, we are solving a very important question on the topic covered interest arbitrage, a topic that is heavily asked in your exams. So let us first quickly discuss the concept of covered interest arbitrage. This concept tells us that this is a strategy where an investor tries to earn risk-free profit. And to earn this risk-free profit, what he does is that he takes advantage of the interest rate difference between the two countries. So if I am an investor, I would want to earn profit, but I would want to earn a risk free profit. So what I would do is that I would look at the interest rate of the two countries, and I would look at the difference between the interest rate, and then I would make a decision to invest. Okay. And while doing so, I would be covering the currency risk by using a forward contract. So an investor uses a forward contract and covers themselves from the risk of currency rate fluctuation. Here, the word covered is very important to notice. The word covered here means that you have already logged in the exchange rate through a forward contract. Like we have already discussed about the forward contract. In a forward contract, you already lock the exchange rate. So you have also taken the help of a forward contract and you have logged in the exchange rate already. You have logged the exchange rate before making your investment. So when you do this, you have a zero currency risk. You are free of the tension that your currency exchange rates would change and you would have to bear a risk, because you won't have to, because you have already signed up a forward contract. So these kind of investors already sign up a forward contract, right? Now the question here is that, does it make sense to invest abroad or to stay at home? How do you decide? Suppose that I am an Indian investor and India is my home country, and I look at the interest rate of both India and US. So I have to make a decision now where I want to invest, in India or in US. So how do I take this decision? So I have to see whether this covered interest arbitrage margin, which is also called a CIAM, whether this is negative or whether this is positive. So if my covered interest arbitrage margin, which we will come to in just some time, if this is negative, this means that there is CIA outflow. Now, what do we mean by CIA outflow? This means that capital flows out of the country. So, covered interest arbitrage outflow means capital flows out of the country. When my CIAM, when my margin is negative, this is CIA outflow, this is covered interest arbitrage outflow, and this means that capital flows out of the country, which is my home country. So, capital flows out of my home country and it will flow into the foreign country. So, capital leaves my home country and it flows into the foreign country. This is the meaning when CIAM is negative. And just the opposite happens when my CIAM is positive. This means that capital will stay at home. So here the capital stays at home. So this is the difference between the two. This is the difference between the covered interest arbitrage margin being positive or negative. So we'll all keep this in mind. Now let's read this question together. So the question says that a Japanese investor considers investing in the US bonds. So of course Japan is the home country here and US is the foreign country here, as we can see. So this investor is considering to invest in the US bonds, and these are the values that we have already been given. We have been given the value of spot rate, 1 year forward rate. We know the interest rate in Japan, which is my domestic country, and we also know the interest rate in US, which is my foreign country. Now I have to find the covered interest arbitrage. And I also have to say whether my capital will stay in my country or whether it will flow out. So let us solve this question together. So before solving this question, we will all remember the formula for CIAM. The formula is written over here. Please pause your screens and note this formula down. So the first part of the formula tells us to firstly subtract the interest rate differences between the two countries. So as we can see, I'll zoom out the screen. As we can see, we have to also, these values are in percentages. So convert it in decimal. 1% would be equal to 0.01 and 3% would be equal to 0.03, and then solve the question. All right. So the first part that we have to find, this is my interest rate differential. I'll write it here. So this is my interest rate differential. So solving this part gives me a value of 0.01 minus 0.03. The entire value would be divided by 1 plus 0.03. And when I solve this further, I'll get here negative 0.02 divided by 1.03, and the final value that I would get would be negative of 0.01942. So this is the value I get when I solve this particular part, this first part. Now I have to take the difference of the forward rate and spot rate and then divide the value by spot rate. So let us solve this part. So when I would solve this part, I will have the forward rate as 114. I will subtract it by 110 and then divide the entire value by 110. So I get here 4 divided by 110, and this value would be positive of 0.036. This will be the value that I'll get from part 2. from this part. So we have both the values with us right here, and the thing that's left to do is to subtract them, right? So the value of CIAM that we get when we subtract these two values, this value would be equal to negative of 0.05578. So this is the value that we will get when we subtract both the above values, right? So this is the value that I'm getting when I'm subtracting the two values. And as we can see, the CIAM that we get here, this is negative. And just like I mentioned, when we get CIM as negative, this means that there would be a CIA outflow, which means capital will flow out of the country, right? So now look at the options. What was my home country? My home country was Japan. So because I have received a CIAM value as negative, so money will flow out of Japan and move to US. This is what is going to happen. So this option would be wrong because the capital would not flow into Japan, and there is no talks about interest parity here. So we are left with these two options, option number B and option number D. Now look at all the options that we have. The value of CIAM that we got here is negative of 0.05578. This is the value that we get here, right? So when we convert this value into percentage, we get negative of 5.64 approximately percent. This is the value that we get here. So we'll approximate this value and we'll reach to negative 5.64%. And as we know that the money will flow into US, so option number B would be our right answer, and we can mark this option as correct. So you all just need to remember a rule. This rule is that whenever you have a negative CIAM, this means that money will flow into the foreign country. And whenever you have a positive CIAM, this means that money will stay in the home country. So just remembering this rule is enough for you to solve any kind of numerical that is based on finding your covered interest arbitrage. Thank you.